Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, Brian's Life. And today I want to touch base on driving in the Philippines. Is it safe? Should you do it? What are the recommendations? Let's just go over a few of them. Now, I will explain coming from my point of view. I do have a motorcycle license. I do drive in my own country here in Canada. I've had a street bike for several years, bigger ones as well, the big 1700. So I'm not unfamiliar with riding a bike. Had a dirt bike when I was younger. So I've got my balance figured out and I'm not afraid of a bike. So if you've never been on a bike, well, then that's a whole different scenario as well. Okay, you should be comfortable. You should be very good on your balance. You should be able to control your bike and have that confidence that don't have the fear. Okay, that's number one. So even if aside from that, if you're going to rent one there or not, if you are, even you haven't had that experience, get used to the bike first. Okay. I call them the little twist and goes there. They're the automatics. They're very easy to drive. Got a pretty good balance system on them, so they're good that way. Now, is it unsafe compared to North America or other countries? Well, it's busy, okay? And there's a lot of people that actually drive there that do not have licenses, never had any formal type of training or understanding of how the way the rules would work, okay? So that alone can make it, of course, more risky. There's the other part of it. A lot of people do drink and drive there. There's that. Obviously, that makes it more risky as well. You've got your high speeds. You've got unregulated intersections. Everything kind of just blends in. Now, let's stay with the intersections for a moment. Yes, they're unrelated or unregulated, no stop signs and etc. However, they're all used to that, so they all sort of blend in. They all do pay attention more or less, and you're going to be very aware that one of the positive things I like about it is there's very, very little, if ever, any kind of road rage. Everybody kind of knows whose turn it is, how to let you in. If you stand in one of these and you're very hesitant and you're uncertain and you're insecure, then you're not going to make it through that intersection very well at all. Okay, so something to keep in mind. Now, many would say, okay, don't go on the bikes. They'll feel a lot more safer in a vehicle. Yes, you're going to be safer in a vehicle. And I'll probably end up one day getting one there. I would probably like a van or something like that, so I can move some stuff around. And if I'm going from province for a longer distance from another province, it's a little bit more comfortable in my back and such. But for daily running around, going in town, me personally, I would not want a vehicle. It's just it's very difficult in the traffic to maneuver around versus a bike. Now, the unsafe part, you know, I've know a few people that when I was there, they got themselves into an accident. One lost the tip of his finger and stuff. The other one, a car just came right out directly in front of him. You know, it does happen. It happens here as well, though. The difference is there's a lot more traffic there and it's a lot more busier. I would say, you know, me riding a bike already, I've got that experience of you pay attention. And I'll tell you a little backstory here. When I was in Dumaguete, the intersections, they have no lights. Like I said, they're unregulated. So at first I thought, I'm not renting a bike here because I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to start driving around just, oh, this is great. Pull up to an intersection, see that there's no stop sign and just cruise along, and of course get into an accident was my thinking. So I didn't want to rent one, and then I started. I felt claustrophobic. I needed to experience more where these roads go to, how they, you know, where do things end up. So I figured, okay, I'll just pay really good attention. I'll get myself a bike. And it turns out that the intersection was the least of my problems. You know, you're watching other traffic. You're watching, you know, wild dogs run around. You're paying attention. But that's sort of something you got to do all the time, wherever country you're in. When you're on a bike or any kind of vehicle, you should be paying attention. I find the challenge of that, and were you able to drive? In other words, meaning that, you know, it's common to just center lane. It's common to overtake when you can, if you have space and stuff like that. You kind of go with the flow of the traffic. In a way, that in itself is a great way to travel as well. Okay, now many may argue that, but my point being is, when you're keeping up with the flow and you have more selection where you can go, the travel actually, for me, I enjoy it, okay? And you're paying attention to everything. And like I said earlier, the road rage is pretty much non-existent there, so that's a great thing. Now, a vehicle, of course, like I say, is going to be safer. They're a little bit more money. They're harder to rent. Those little twist and go bikes you can rent pretty much everywhere, and it's a great way to travel around. I personally just feel claustrophobic if I don't have my own transportation to go, because they have great public transportation. Okay. But it is a little bit more uncomfortable for my size, and it doesn't want to just give me the freedom where I just want to go explore on my own, stop where I want to stop, stay for as long as I want to go when I want to go. For me, I almost would consider if I couldn't drive there, I wouldn't want to be there. So that's coming from my perspective. I've known some other foreigners that have been there. They've never been on a bike. They don't want to do it. They're afraid. I would say, then great, that's the best decision. If you've got a hesitation and you're afraid, don't be on it, because it'll be a little bit overwhelming with the traffic and the lack of rules in many of the places. Manila, for example, they're a lot more strict with the rules. There are street lights, etc., etc. But it's also heavily traffic. So, a lot of it's going to be common sense. You got to pay attention no matter where you are. Be aware of your surroundings. People will pass on either side. They'll come up. And another thing, for example, is buses out there. If I see an oncoming bus, I will look at what is in front of the bus, not at the bus per se. Because if there's something in front of the bus and that thing is going slow, it's going to pass. Okay, whether I'm on the road or not, it's going to pass. I have to pull over. Now that might sound very intimidating, and right off the bat, you might, I'll never rent something out there, never go. But you're aware of these things, and I don't know. Like I say, I am self-aware of my surroundings extremely. So I pay attention to everything, which you should do no matter what country you're in. The problem is, the drinking and driving that is allowed. Well, I shouldn't say it's allowed there, but it's very common there. The speed limits aren't, there are not really any speed limits posted in most places. And if they are, they're not followed, or they're very below the speed limit, and then people will pass. So they have lines on the road, but a lot of places, again, there's no point of having these painted lines. That people just drive where there's space. I mean, they'll be up on the side of the road. They'll just go wherever they want to go, right? And I'm sure you've probably watched videos. I'll be posting some videos in the future what the traffic's like as well in there. But the real question is, should you drive or should you not drive? Well, that really does become on a personal situation. If you feel confident enough, or you experienced with any kind of driving, and if you are going to do it, of course, be self-aware of your surroundings and start off slow and go from there and get take some of the back roads and get comfortable with it. I think overall, for me, the safety issue versus not being able to drive, for me, it's that risk-reward situation. I don't drink and drive. I pay attention, and that's the bigger part. I like to be able to explore the country, see the remote beaches, go to these remote destinations, and a lot of these places you cannot get there. Now, I did hire a private tricycle once in Dumaguete. I went there just for a few days. I wanted to see if I wanted to consider moving there. So there was a lot of these destinations I've seen that are very popular. So I thought, okay, I want to go here, but I don't want to stay. I just want to see if it's even close to what it looks like what I've seen on YouTube. And I remember I think it was called the Red Rock Falls or Hot Springs or something like that. And normally a tricycle wouldn't go there. But the gentleman was kind enough to try and get me there. And like I said, I hired him privately for the day, and he would take me to these places. I had to get out of the tricycle because it was very, very steep hill, etc. But my point being there is, if you don't have your own bike, there's a lot of these places you just don't have access to. And then more importantly, you don't have on your own time frame, because I don't like to make a schedule. I don't like to make a designated time. I wake up and I decide, hey, this is what I want to do. Or in the middle of the afternoon, I change my mind. I want to go here. I want to do this. So for me, that value of that freedom, being able to do that, and I got a little box in the back of mine for extra storage. I go for a couple of days kind of thing if you wanted to, right? So that freedom to me is extremely valuable, and that's how you get to see the beautiful country. You get to see the area. You get to meet different people. So I wouldn't want to trade that off. And yes, it is a lot more, I guess you could say, riskier. But I argue you got to really pay attention, okay? You got to pay attention no matter what country you're in to drive. You got to be more aware of the other people that are driving than what's going right around you, a little bit up ahead, things like that. And I'm sure that if you have that that way of thinking, you're gonna be fine. I think what a lot of the problem is when tourists go there, especially they're in that tourist frame of mind, which is nothing wrong with, but you get lost in the destination, you get lost in the views and all this kind of stuff, and you don't really pay attention to the road. And I know we can get away with that a little bit more in our own country, because if you don't see a stop sign way ahead and you see the road, most people just kind of stay on their path, okay? They don't do the unnecessarily speeding or the unnecessary passing. I mean, it does happen, don't get me wrong, of course it happens, but it's not as common. So you can kind of zone out, for lack of better words, and look at your surroundings and stuff. There you got to be very careful, okay? You got to be very careful. You do that, you are going to find yourself in trouble, especially where it's busy, okay? And especially if you're going even from further destinations and you're on the open highway now, and it's a little bit more, you don't have the intersections to deal with, but you got to be really aware of the traffic, because the oncoming traffic, they will pass. Cars, buses for sure, 100%, but anything, they'll just pass. They see a spot, they see a bike that's oncoming traffic, well, they assume the bike's just going to move over, which they all do. They move right over, not even to where the road exists anymore. They're like the sidewalk, if you will, like it's a painted line or whatever, they move right over. It's a very common practice there. So it's very well understood. If you're driving the vehicle, many people just, it's natural for them to pass, okay, because they're assuming everybody's paying attention and going to pull over. So that aspect is completely different. But once you're aware of that, you drive like that, and knowing that, you're going to be in a lot better situation. Having said that, I do see accidents pretty much every time I'm out there. Most of them are due to the high speeds. You can just tell by the way the accident is, and they obviously weren't paying attention to that full extent. And I would also think that a lot of the tourists that go there and then have the accident, I think a lot of it is based on they may have not even ever been on a motorcycle before, or they don't have the same experience or something like that. But also, it is easy to get caught up in that, look at that, what's going on there, and be sidetracked and not pay direct attention to what's going on in front of you on your road. And that is, I can't stress that enough. I've repeated it many times, but that is really the important thing. But that's important no matter where you are, okay? So again, for me personally, I couldn't do without it. Sure you could theoretically, but I wouldn't want to, okay? Just the reward of being able to go and cheap is like, you're filling up your bike for a couple hundred pesos, $3, $4, and you're going on all these adventures. It's fantastic. It's a great country to explore, lots to see, and that reward is definitely worth that extra stress or risk to look and be more careful in your surroundings. Hope that helps. If you want to ask any direct questions, leave a comment. I can try and help you out with any areas, especially about getting your license, or if how long you're going to stay. I can help with all that kind of stuff, give you information. Insurances are cheap there. So yeah, if you like this, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment. Otherwise, have a great day and take care, everybody. Thanks.